Hey, what's up? This is Illtown Music. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through 5 different things you should know before deciding to release an album on vinyl. So if you've been watching my recent videos, you probably know that I just did release an album on vinyl. I've been getting a lot of questions around the process, so I decided to consolidate all that and put it into a video. And hopefully this will help somebody else out there who's looking to do the same thing. So I don't claim to be an expert on the subject. I'm just going off of my own personal experience from my recent album and also with some other people that I've known that have released records as well. And with that, let's get into the list. So number 1 on the list, the mix. What good is putting out an album on vinyl if it sounds like trash? This is a mistake that a lot of beginners make. They think that the way that you master a song for the radio or for MP3 is the same as you would on vinyl. That's definitely not the case. First of all, you're going to want the highest quality audio that you could get, preferably 24 bits. So when you're mixing for vinyl, the first thing you want to do is make sure that everything on the low end, this includes your bass and your kick drum, is in mono. So the way that records are cut, if the low frequencies aren't in mono, it's really going to make your pressing sound awful. Also, when you're making the low end mono, you're going to want to make sure that there's no phasing issues. Speaking of the low end, you're going to want to cut it a little bit as well. I know it's tempting to have a bass heavy mix, especially with hip hop, but bass and vinyl don't really go together too well, especially on the real low end. So you're going to want to kind of roll that off a little bit. Also, you're going to need to let your audio mix breathe a little bit. So vinyl is super sensitive. So if your mix is too loud and over compressed, it's not going to sound good on vinyl and you're kind of wasting your time. You want to be able to see the waveform so that you can see the peaks and valleys, and that'll translate better to the sensitivity of vinyl. Also, when you're thinking about audio quality, you need to think of the length of the songs and the album itself. So if you're mixing down an LP, you want to keep it below 20 minutes each side, preferably in the 15 to 18 minute range. The more time you try to squeeze on an LP, the grooves get closer and closer together, and what happens is the audio quality just keeps dropping. This may cause you to make some tough decisions. For example, on my album, the full length digitally is 60 minutes, and I had to cut it down to 40 for the vinyl release. So basically, I cut out a few songs, and then I shortened a bunch of the other ones. So next on the list is timing. I'm sure you're already aware, but there's not that many pressing plants across the world that still press vinyl. So once vinyl got popular again, a lot of the majors started pressing their albums on vinyl, and of course, they get priority over independents. So if you're planning a vinyl release, give yourself at least 3 to 5 months depending on which plant you end up landing on. This is also dependent on a couple other factors. Most plants will ask you to approve the artwork first before they start printing that. And then also, if you're doing a larger run, you may get a test pressing. The time that it takes to manufacture that test pressing, send it to you, you approve it, and then they start manufacturing. That could all really add up depending on how long it takes and if the plant is international, which a lot of them are. So if you are planning to have your digital release and your physical launch at the same time, you're definitely going to need to have it done way in advance. Next up on the list, which is probably the most important one, is the cost. So vinyl is expensive to manufacture, and once again, that's because there's a limited amount of plants that'll still make vinyl. Typically, the more copies that you get, it'll be cheaper per unit. A lot of plants will not do under 100 copies. I was lucky enough and found a place that would do 50, but again, it was very expensive per copy. Aside from the number of units, there's a lot of options that you usually get, which will also add to the cost. First of all, you're going to want to consider the artwork. A lot of plants will charge more depending on how many colors are on the cover or also the record label itself. Also related to the cover, depending on what type of paper stock you use, if it's thick or thin, if it's gloss or matte, that'll also increase the price. For the record itself, there's usually some options as well. The cheapest is a low weight record on black vinyl. I opted for a 180 gram record. Sounds a little better and it's more sturdy and durable. Most pressing plants also have color vinyl options. They look really cool, but I will say that color vinyl tends to be lower quality. So just to give you a real world example, my latest album on vinyl cost $26 to manufacture each unit. So next on the list is selling your record, because after you spend all this money manufacturing the record, you're gonna want people to buy it, right? It's very important that before you decide to go through this process, you kind of do an estimate and get a feel of how many people will actually buy your album. I know it could be very tempting to opt for more copies because you get a cheaper price per unit, but you really don't want to be stuck with hundreds of dollars worth of vinyl in your basement if you can't sell it. Aside from the cost of manufacturing, you're going to want to add other expenses to the price of the record. For example, the cardboard mailers that you'll be shipping it out in, as well as any marketing, and basically your time for making the music that's on the album. There's nothing wrong with charging for that. So after you decide how much you want people to pay for the album, you need to figure out how to get it to them. The easiest way and the way that you keep the most money, obviously, is selling direct. So this is posting on your Instagram and asking people to hit you up on PayPal. Another really easy way is through Bandcamp. They do take a small percentage. I think it's about like $1.30 or something like that. But they do have a system that kind of makes it easy to manage orders. If your fan base warrants it, you may be able to sell on eBay or Discogs. Aside from online, a lot of record stores will sell your album on consignment. You just really want to make sure the terms are in your favor. A lot of times you're kind of really paying them to sell your record versus you actually making money from it. If you're getting some type of placement like in their new releases section or on their website, it may be beneficial. Or other times your inventory will be just sitting in this store tied up. And the last item on the list, shipping. So if you're doing your own order fulfillment, which I assume you are if you're watching this video, you're gonna have to ship these records out. I highly recommend not skimping on shipping supplies. You spend all this time and money putting together this beautiful record, and then you put it in the mail and it gets destroyed. Me personally, I recommend these mailers. Again, the cost of the mailers depends on how many you buy in bulk. You're also going to want to put in cardboard inserts. This protects the record. This is especially important if you're ordering some of the thinner vinyl where you don't want it to get damaged during shipping. You're also going to decide where you want to ship. I'm speaking from a US perspective, and shipping international is very expensive. So at the time of making this video, the cost to ship up to 2 pounds to Canada is over $20, and to ship to Europe is like $25. This can get tricky if somebody international orders more than 2 records because the shipping is going to be like $40. Also, to ship international, you have to fill out a customs form, so it's easier to buy the postage online than it is going to a post office. So again, it's important to think of all those shipping costs, the time it's taking you to go to the post office or to buy the postage online, the packing tape to seal the boxes, the labels that you're putting on the front for the return address, or the marker that you're using to manually write it out. All that needs to be considered when figuring out shipping. And that's it. I hope this helps some people out there that are thinking about releasing something on vinyl. If you have any other questions I didn't cover in this video, feel free to leave them in the comment section and hopefully I can get to it. Peace.